Hello friends, now I will give one example how to implement sync. Hello friends, now I will explain what is Singleton Design Pattern in C Sharp. Explain their implementation using an example. So the definitions are: a singleton in C Sharp is a class that allows the creation of only a single instance of itself and provide simple access to that solo instance. Because the second request of an instance with a different parameter can cause the problems. Singletons typically disallow any parameters to be specified. So I am going to give an example about how to implement uh, Singleton Design Pattern in C Sharp. So there are some specifications. The specifications are: a Singleton Design Pattern ensure that a class has one and only one instance and provide a global point of access to the same. There are numerous ways of implementing singleton design pattern in C Sharp. The following are the typical characteristics of singleton pattern. So the singleton pattern must be a public static means of getting the reference to the single instance created. So it should be a public static property. So indirectly, so it is going to give single instance of that class. A single constructed, private and parameterless. So user cannot create a instance to the singleton class. That's why it should be private. It should have private constructor and a static variable holding a reference to the single instance created. So it should be a static variable holding that reference to that single instance class, as well as that the class should be sealed. So these are the characteristics of singleton design pattern. Now I will demonstrate the implementation of singleton design pattern in C Sharp program. So I have created a class with these characters for singleton design pattern. So as it mentioned, it should be sealed. So if you observe here, this is the sealed class and a static variable holding reference to the single instance created. So this is my static variable of that my class, and it's so it is having a reference to the single instance created. Suppose if user try to access this, it first verify this is the variable instance variable. If it is for the first time, it should be null. In that case, I am assigning a reference of my class to that variable. So I am returning that to the user. Suppose if user tried once again, since it's already having the instance, it won't create. So it always return single instance to the how many times user calls. So that we can call a singleton design pattern, and it should be a single constructor and private and parameterless. It should be a single constructor. So it is a constructor of, so constructor means it should have same class name, and that is also private, so that user cannot create instance using new operator. So that is so using these characteristics, I have created a singleton design pattern. Now let me go and use this class, and I will demonstrate that. So my singleton design pattern class is ready. So if you see the implementation, I have the two properties, value 1, value 2, and if you use a class addition, so these values will get add and return to the user. If you use call the subtraction, so it will get the subtraction value between those variables. If you use a called multiples, then it will multiply and return, and division, it will divide by 2 and to second variable and return. So these are the implementation. So let me go and use this singleton design pattern. So first, as I mentioned, user cannot create object since it has a private constructor. Let me try that. So if we observe here, is inaccessible due to its protection level. So since it is private, so user cannot create object. So let's try with public now. If you see, there is no error. So that's why it should be private. So now, so after that, so let's see that so to access to this class, first time instance dot. So let me, so if user for the first time is trying to access, let's see that. Let me go and access variable, set the variable values, value 1 equal 1. The same way I can set the value for, so let's try with 2 and 4 value. So let me debug this, and you can observe whether it is means creating an instance for the second time call. So I pressed F9. Let's debug this. So let me debug this first. So how the instance is creating for repeated calls. So I'm pressing F9 so that it will execute line by line. So it can, so this is the first instance. So my private static variable is empty, so it is creating instance assigning to this private variable. And suppose if it comes to the next request, since it has already instance, it won't create, so it will return to the previous instance, and further calls it always return to the same object. It won't create instance again. So since since that is a singleton design pattern, so it always return the same object instead of creating, so that my object, my so the same, so as it mentioned, it's uh, allows creation only single instance itself and provide a simple access to that solo instance. So it always return to the same object for further requests. So let me go and see the output. So if you see that output, my value 1 is 4 and value 2 is 2. So if it is addition 6 and subtraction is 2 and division also 2. So let suppose in case if I reset my value 1 to 6, and if I execute the same again, let's see that how it was. So I have reset my value 1 to 6 and I'm again doing additions. Let's see that output how it is. if we see that my output changed to 8, so 6, see my value on is 6, 6 plus 2 8, subtraction 6 minus 2 4, division 6 divided by 2 is 3. Since it is returning same object, so that's why it is maintaining even further calls also. It is, since it is returning same object, so it is holding the value 2. So I hope you understand that what is singleton design pattern and how we need to implement in C#.NET. So I will reiterate this again. A singleton design pattern ensures that a class has one and only one instance and provide a global point of access to the same. There is a characteristics are a public static means of getting a reference to the single instance created, a single constructor and a private and parameterless. It should be a single constructor and private parameterless, and as well as a static variable holding a reference to the single instance created, and the class should be sealed so that it can't be inherited. So I hope you understand what is singleton design pattern, how to implement. Thank you guys. Have a nice day.